All right, thanks, Brian. Well, hello, everyone. Here I am, it's Julie again. We're back to, it's my turn. So thanks again for joining us. It's nice to see some familiar faces. And I think most everyone has been to our training so far. So just a quick reminder that we're recording this and it'll be archived on our website. Brian will get that up there in the next day or two. And I'll be presenting for about 30 minutes and then we'll have some time for questions and discussion. Feel free to write any questions in the chat or make comments. Maurice will be watching the chat for me so he can answer questions and he might post some resources that I mention. And you can also use the raise hand if you like. But we won't get to those questions till the end. We're asking that everybody's muted. Okay. And then there will be a handout of resources that will also be put up on the website. All right. So interestingly enough, today we're talking about promoting literacy skill building at home because that's where we all still are. And hopefully you will walk away, if you're family members out there, you'll walk away with some ideas of some things you can try with your child. And if you're professionals that are supporting families, these are great tips and resources that you might want to share with them. I do think that once again, this session really nicely ties into so many of our other sessions because you'll see me mentioning routines, you'll see me mentioning calendars, we'll be talking about concept development, but a lot of that can be tied to the 4 assessment questions that Maurice covered a while ago. We'll be looking at adapting books, which ties in nicely with what Kayla covered a couple of weeks ago. So much of this is connected, and then all of it rounds out to the relationships and social connections that you're making that the kids have at home with their family members. And that's what Myrna's been covering a lot. So yay, it all ties together. There's an article I wrote 3 years ago, and it'll be one of the resources that I share with you and show you at the end. But it was really talking about, and I'm not the first person to do this by any shot. There's some really amazing people that have written about how to promote literacy skill building for students that have more significant support needs. So students who are emerging communicators, who may have physical disabilities, as well as their vision and hearing loss. But I believe, and some of these other folks that have written about it and done some great trainings on it, that we really, we need to include everybody when we're thinking about literacy, because literacy, after all, is really about just providing access to information. And we've talked in the past about how deaf blindness really is a disability of access. If that's the thing that is most missing. So access to the information around us in our world, but also access to the people in it. So it's really important to not discount learners who have more significant support needs or multiple multisensory issues, but to actually think about how can we connect literacy, how can we bring literacy from the page? How can we take print or language from the page and bring it to them through multisensory avenues to think about how they could have access to that information and have an opportunity to share and comment as well. So some reasons to promote literacy development are, well, first that piece of that access to missing information. So we're going to be really thoughtful about how we provide that information and what that information will look like. There's a photo here of a young boy with Charge syndrome, and he was at one of our training events with a family event, and we were doing face painting. And we just had these pages out that you often see when you go to a street fair or something, where you see face painters and they've got the whole poster up where kids can make their selection of which one they'd like to have. But what I love about this photo is he already had the painting done on his face. He had already picked whatever it was, the firefly eyes or some kind of mask, but here he was talking to somebody else about it. So he actually took the paper that we were using and was using it to have a conversation to show someone which one he had picked. So there can be lots of ways that we're making sure that that information is getting to students. And also, so there's that way for them to make a choice, which is what he did originally, but then he can also comment on it. And if we really think about it, literacy isn't just, the ways that we think about it in school, where you learn to read a textbook or a fiction book and then you write in your journal or you write for a purpose. We read and write and gather information for lots of, and provide information to other people for lots of reasons. Every day. We use it to write our grocery lists. We use it to maybe pay our bills. We might use it to send a letter to someone. We use it to check our email. We use it to check the news in the morning. We use it to follow a recipe. We use it to select what we want to eat. There's just all kinds of ways that we use it. And so we want to think about how we can build that for our students too. And then also, so many literacy activities actually are really pleasurable and fun, and it's a great routine to be part of in a family. So so we're going to look at ways to make this work for students that have these that are still emerging communicators and are developing these skills. So as I said earlier, we have to think of literacy beyond just reading and writing, but really think about literacy as it's a form of communication. So it's this other level of communication, and it's this opportunity that students now have to share ideas and information and give their opinion and share their feelings. And it can also help connect them really with other people, but also with things in their world. So this photograph here, I love. It's a little girl that we've supported since she was very young. We met her as a baby. And here she is at the Oakland Museum. I don't know if some of you may have been there. It's a pretty fantastic place here in the East Bay. And they have this huge trunk from a redwood tree that's kind of been turned into burl wood that's in one section of the museum and kids, it's really nice because it's a piece of artwork and sculpture where children are encouraged to climb on it and to touch it and to climb under it and to really explore. So here she is with her big brother, and she's really learning about how big and large a redwood tree is. And this is the only way that this little girl is going to be able to figure this out, is coming in contact with trees. And I'm not sure if she's ever been to a redwood forest herself, but this was a great way. And plus she was having so much fun, and they were able to look at all different concepts and things like that. So, so it's the idea that we can start thinking about literacy as just with students using any kind of object that they're using to learn expressively, convey information, but also maybe learn about something receptively. And it might be photographs, it might be pictures. So it can be any way that the child, any materials that the child needs to be able to gather information or be able to express information. So it doesn't only have to be print. It doesn't only have to be Braille. That's the point I want to make there. We're going to look at this website near the end. It's one of the resources I want to share. It's a literacy for children with combined vision and hearing loss. And it was developed by the National Center on Deaf Blindness by some really remarkable people. A million resources there. I can't remember if I showed it to you when I did experience books, but the main thing that they start off with on this website is just their beliefs about literacy, which I also share. And it really is a big focus is on that we have to have high expectations, and we have to have numerous enriching opportunities for kids to have exposure to language, to communication, to activities that include literacy skills and that can build concepts. A key thing is that literacy development is founded, and this is true for all kids. This is true for typically developing children. Literacy development begins with the personal experiences that a child's having and how they develop those concepts about the world. So it starts at a very early age. For some learners with more extensive support needs and multiple issues, that may have to go on a lot longer, that level of very concrete personal experiences. But that's okay, because we're going to meet kids where they're at, and then continuing to kind of build on concepts that are connected to those meaningful personal experiences. And it also has a really strong emphasis on that connection to communication and socialization. And what's nice about this website, you'll see if we have a chance to explore it much together. If we don't, you can check it out yourself, is they've set it up so nicely to have this really nice continuum of activities starting at a very foundational emergent level, even pre-emergent level, to getting up to independent literacy. So, and here's another example I want to show you, because I really want to stress what I'm talking about. Like, it's not thinking about picking up a book, even if it's a very early chapter book or board book. It's really about this providing information to a child through multiple senses so that they are making a connection to a thing or to an experience. And here's another little boy with multiple disabilities, including deafblindness, who's seated in his mother's lap, and he's at the Lindsay Wildlife Museum. And we visited this with a number of families, and we asked the docent ahead of time. We told her families were coming with children who are deafblind and some who had multiple disabilities. And they had all these things set up to bring to the children so that they could feel them and touch them. So he's feeling the fur of some creature here that's local, and getting a chance to really kind of feel the real fur of an animal and kind of start to make this connection. So this page, yeah. Okay, so again, paths to literacy. I showed you that last time, I believe, when we talked about experience books. Lots of good, there's a whole section there on emergent literacy. And there's a lot of things that they say on the different pages related to emergent literacy. But what I really like is that how they emphasize, again, communication and literacy being so interrelated, and that it has to do with being able to express and comprehend ideas about the world. That's the first step to literacy. And that's true for even typically developing kids. So it's going to include lots of things like listening and speaking or signing, using objects, pictures, gestures, any combination, so that we're helping the child understand, interpret, and make sense of their world. There's a photograph here of the same young girl that was looking at the burlwood sculpture with her brother. And here she is, where she's very young, seated in a teacher's lap. And then another teacher is showing her, this is actually, it was a picture of herself, a very large 8x10 picture, colorful, and with her family picked to put like soft cotton around the edge of the frame. And that was kind of an identifying feature for her. And it was just at this point, because she was 2 years old, maybe, it was really trying to help her kind of distinguish in a multisensory way different photographs of different people that were involved in this play group that she was part of, different children. So her learning to like name and label things. Another good example would be using a calendar system. These are all ways that literacy can fit into just typical things that are happening in the day. I think for children with significant support needs or who with multiple disabilities, we really have to think way beyond that. Literacy happens when we sit down and do storybook reading one time a day. Literacy can be happening throughout the day in lots of different activities, including all the ones that I've listed here: turn taking, routines, concepts, calendars. I see we're about halfway through. I think that's okay. I think I'm right on track. This is from the National Center on Deafblindness. They've got a literacy webpage that I'm going to show you. And they have recently developed, maybe in the last year, developed this really nice learning module about literacy. And it's called Building a Foundation. And I want to just show you this short clip because again, I think if you haven't thought about literacy happening in this way, you might not look like we can call this literacy, but it really is. You'll see this young child, Lupita, and she's just participating with her early interventionist in a song and movement together. And then the instructor is going to ask her if she wants more, and she's going to wait for her to signal that she does. And so that she's waiting for the child to communicate back. And then they're going to repeat the song again. For children who are emerging communicators who do not yet know that symbols have meaning, this is where you would start with communication, but also with literacy. So why is this not starting? Huh.
Julie, maybe if you need to advance it using that little gray arrow in the bottom left, then you might get to one that actually is a video.
Thank you for telling me that. Let's see. Nope. Let's try that again. I even did that. Here we go. Thank you, Maurice. Okay. About a minute and a half.
I'll run those legs We'll run, 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 run.
Text. Adult continues to move the child's legs.
There you are. Shake, 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 shake.
Adult acknowledges her attempt to communicate. The adult stops shaking and lowers the child's legs to the ground.
Boom.
The child lies on her back, supported by a pillow, on a mat with colorful toys. Text. Adult provides child with wait time. Adult prompts child.
What should we do, Lupita? Do you want to do some more? We saw that foot.
Text. Again, the adult provides the child with wait time to respond. The child looks around.
You gotta tell me, huh? Should we do it again?
Text. Child communicates by moving her legs.
There you are. I see your legs and your tail.
Adult lifts child's legs.
Up and up and up. Run. Those legs.
Shakes child's
Run,
legs.
Run, run, run.
So what I want to say about that video is a couple things. One is that's how long you have to wait. For some of these kids, when you are working on turn taking and you're working on communication and you're working on something motivating that they might want to continue, you need to wait and you need to be patient and that respectful in waiting. The other thing is for that child to make something that's super motivating and super meaningful to her, it has to be something that has to do with her body. You're coming right to her. So she's moving those legs back and forth. She's making up and singing a song. The girls seem to be enjoying it. I mean, I don't know the child myself, but from watching that, I didn't see distress. So just that's where you might want to be starting. And we're going to move on to talking about books and things like that, but I just wanted to provide that example. I don't want to go too much into routines because I spent the first training talking about that, and I'd encourage you to go back and look at that. But again, in routines, the ways that you can always be focusing on communication would be good ways to be learning and practicing literacy and helping kids move from starting to understand that symbols have some kind of meaning. So here's a picture of a mother that's signing to the child, want to eat, so eat right to his mouth. And then he's also signing eat in response. So there's, again, a turn taking back and forth, and that can be the beginning of kind of telling a story, a personal story, like this is the routine we're going to do now. And then the child showing that he understands it. There's also a picture down here of Mackenzie's cubby that had a lot of ways for her to get information. There was a large picture of her with print. There was another picture down here. There was a picture of shoes because her shoes were supposed to go in there. There was the sign that showed shoes. There was a text with Braille. So there was lots of different ways for her to, and again, the soft cotton around the frame. So for her these are identifying features. She's using the information that's available to her through multiple senses to get the information she needs to then be able to respond. That is a form of literacy. This is a great example. So again, paths to literacy. So this was a nature walk, and I shared this in another training I did on literacy that was a much longer training. And this was an example that a TVI teacher posted about what an orientation and mobility instructor did with a student. She went out and she would take us masking tape and put it around the girl's wrist. So the outside part is on, the sticky part's on the outside. And then as she went out and walked around, as she found something interesting, she would pick it up and stick it to the tape on her bracelet. I think that's a great idea. That would be a great way to go back then and write in a journal page, which is what they did, or you could make an experience book. But again, it's a way to build literacy based on kids' very, very personal experiences. And then when they would come back, the teacher then would help her braille it. And so this was a girl that was, again, an emerging her literacy skills were emerging. So they were providing text and then also putting some Braille there for her to have familiarity with that. And then also just tape in the things that she found. So you can then take the bracelet and unravel it and put it in the journal. So that was a cool idea, and families could do that. Okay, so you ready for a little interactive fun? I was reading this morning on a news page. You know, they have those stories sometimes that are like the funniest things that kids say to parents, that parents remember, that things that kids call typical things in their life. And it's a funny word. I have friends whose son used to call syrup bebop, and they still in their family call syrup bebop. So these are some riddles. I'm going to post some examples and just call out, if you want, what you think this thing would be that these are typically developing kids, as far as I know. Leg prisons.
Pants.
Yes, very good, Kimberly. Let's see. What's the next one?
Watch.
Very good. Who got that? Cut it.
Scissors.
Close.
A knife.
Yeah, a knife. So this boy called knives cut-its, and the family continued to keep calling knives cut-its. They said to this day, we still call it cut-it. What about this?
A shake.
Yes.
Milkshake.
Yep, milkshake. Very good. The thumb store. Okay, I'm going to give you a clue. It has to do with a symbol. It's not the word. It's not something that's not something you do with your thumb at this place. This place is not a
Target.
no, not Target, a good idea. Think of gyms, workout places.
Gold gym?
Not Gold's.
Planet Fitness.
Planet Fitness has a big thumbs up icon. That's what they use. Good Manners. This one's really funny. You'll never get it. Good Manners. Anybody want to guess?
Restaurant.
Well, close. That's pretty good.
Church.
You're thinking of places. Think of maybe something you use at the table.
Napkin.
Yeah, napkin. So this little girl called her napkin Good Manners. And then wetter. It's an item in your house that's not in the bathroom.
Hose.
No, it's inside.
Faucet.
No. Think of what would be the opposite of wetter.
The dryer?
Fire.
So what is this?
Oh, the washer.
The washing machine. Isn't that funny? Like those are all really funny. I was laughing so much this morning saying like, oh my gosh, this is going into my slideshow because this is perfect to show that like all these kids developed this and came up with these terms because they were built on their concepts of how the world works and what that would be called. It's based on their own personal experiences. So anyways, I think that's important that we have to think. What I wanted to say about that is then this next slide is, so there's a lot of concept development is another great reason to be promoting literacy activities in your home and at school. And there's all these different ways that we can be teaching concepts through literacy. And there's a long list here that you can read, from calendar systems all the way down to thinking about how you open a book and read it the right way and recognizing characters. But what I really want to focus on this page, because we have talked about some of these things in some of our other sections, and I'm going to cover a couple more hopefully today, is naming and labeling things in people and telling and acting out stories. And we have to think about this for kids who are deafblind, and especially kids who have multiple disabilities, because they don't have these same opportunities that sighted and hearing peers who are typically developing have. They are learning about the names of things, and they're categorizing things and labeling things and people from a very early age. And they learn to kind of to how the world operates and is organized and functions that way. So we have to be continually remembering that we're narrating that for kids, and helping them kind of learn these things. I've got a couple props here. So I was looking at this fruit bowl today that's at my house, and just what was in it earlier was a persimmon and an orange. And I thought, like, wow, those two look so much alike. So kids might get that, other kids might pick up eat more easily how they're all different. But so I think you'd have to help to label these things for kids and help them know that persimmons and oranges might look the same in color, but actually a persimmon's much more like an apple, at least this kind of persimmon, this fuyu one, because it's crispy like an apple. But then it's not really, and it's a different color than an apple, and the apple might look more same color as the pear, but then the pear is a different shape. So there's all kinds of things that we have to be teaching kids, and we think we're just teaching them things about things, but this is all part of literacy too. And then the other piece is this telling and acting out of stories. So it's great to read stories, and I talked about last week how to make literacy meaningful by using experience stories, and I still believe that's such a great way to go for emerging literacy skill building for kids who are deafblind. But we also need to tell stories and let kids tell stories about what they've done in their day or what they remember, or act things out. And for a lot of kids who can't learn about concepts incidentally because they can't just watch and hear these things happening in the world, we might really have to role play and enact and do these things. So you might want to talk about, taking a boat trip that you're gonna take with your family, and maybe you get a lot of things that might be part of a boat that you'd find on a boat, and you bring them together, and you get a big cardboard box and you pretend that's the boat, and you do that prior to the trip, or you do it after the trip to help the child remember. But that it might just seem like pretend play or role play, but it's again part of literacy. It's a good example of a literacy activity that is a way that you can incorporate literacy into home life, or play school life when you get back to school. And then there's all of these other opportunities that we have. So let's look at my time. Oh my, wow. Okay, so I'm going to just talk about the next couple of pages quickly, because I would like to show you some resources, and then we'll decide if you want to have time to see a short video. But I do love this page because it's got a picture of our dear family engagement specialist, Myrna, and her two sweet kids when they were very, very tiny, sharing a book together. So this is a great way to promote literacy. And I talked a little bit about this last week about how siblings can be great partners for this, but there's all kinds of things that can be occurring, and we don't only have to be focused on that they're learning sounds and learning their ABCs or learning words, just the experience of being together with the family and learning that books go from left to right and how to turn a page. And you can be, again, focusing on the story, using different voices to really kind of enlist kids' interest. It's nice to pick stories that have repeated storylines, and then maybe things that might have a personal connection. And then be encouraging comments and questions from your child. So, and these again are great ideas that came from a great presentation I went to last spring at the Texas School for the Blind. They did some good webinars on literacy. And then the next couple of slides just show how to create some adapted tactile books. And there's some great resources for this on the Paths to Literacy site. So, and here's just my instructions for the things that would be helpful. Is you always have to pick age appropriate books, of course, but then thinking about the kid's vision in terms of the types of images that you pick, and then thinking about if there's a very salient feature that you might want to represent tactily. And it helps a lot for emerging literacy to pick books that have a repeated storyline within the book that the children can then focus on. And you can create and make your own books for older students that still have that same idea. And it helps for kids who have physical disabilities or orthopedic needs to make sure the books are really sturdy, so it's easier to turn the page. You can add print and braille. And if there is some sound feature with it, sometimes you see that with books for younger kids, make sure that it's loud and clear enough. So the next page is this. I'm going to go through this because we'll take a vote on whether we're going to watch that. Another idea, I don't know if you guys have used these or if you know about them, but you could also have a storybook or bag. So this, in this case, you'd have a book, again, thinking of something that's age appropriate for the child and something that's high interest, and then pick things that are part of the story. So this was a Pete the Cat book, and it was about him joining a band or something. So, but Pete's always, he's got a fascination with showing off his shoes all the time because he always has cool sneakers. So you're going to have the book, you're maybe going to have a sneaker, you're going to have a Pete the Cat, you're maybe going to have a guitar because he's going to a band. And you have these things and you kind of think about what parts of the story you're going to use those, pull those items out. You can focus on lots, again, on a lot of vocabulary and particular concepts that you might want to really focus on hard and repeat and go back to a lot. So, and again, with both the shared reading and even adapted books at first and a story boxer book, the goal is not that we're really getting hard focus on making sure that we're reading letters and writing letters. That's fine, that will emerge. But we also want to just get the child interested and engaged in reading together with another person and enjoying this activity. So I want to take a poll. I'm going to stop my share so I can see from everybody. I am at 4 o'clock, but I still want to show you some resources. So I want to make sure that that is okay to do. Or if there's any questions first. Katie says yes. Yeah, and you can hit the thumbs up reaction. Okay. All right, looks like it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my share because I do have some things to share. Sorry, I was afraid this might go, I might go over time because there's just so much there. So let's see. Oh, I'm not going to share it here. I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this is what I'm going to share, I hope. Let's wait a minute. I think I have to stop this first. Let me escape this. Okay. And I'm going to show you the web pages. Okay. Okay. So let's start with the National Center. It was the last thing that was listed on that other page, but the National Center on Deaf Blindness has a great literacy page with a lot of resources. So they always on their new website, they've always got a section just in the top that just kind of does an overview description. And then they have a lot of resources, and a lot of these are external resources as well. So this one is actually the article I was telling you that I wrote 3 years ago. So that was nice to see that they thought that was worth including. There's a fantastic external resource here that was written and developed by the Ohio, some project in Ohio. Oh yeah, their deafblind education project. This is fantastic to share with families. It's several pages long, but it has some really, really great ideas about ways to promote pre-literacy skills. And it starts with a lot of the things that I mentioned earlier, such as routines. And it goes on to talk about communication and concept development. So it's very, very good, especially if you're working with families with young children, I think. So that's one that I think would be good to definitely check out. And that's there with their external resources. And then they have, they've got a nice external resource on using tactile signs, which takes you to a Paths to Literacy page, and it's written by a parent, how she uses tactile sign language to read with her child. And then this is the next website I'm going to show you in a second, in Paths to Literacy. So even the National Center knows that these are the two best ones out there. And then this is the learning module that they have. So they have this module that has just 4 activities that help you kind of think about kids who are understanding and just emerging literacy skill and probably emerging communicators as well. And it's a really fantastic module. It's where I showed you that clip of little Lupita. So that is something that's free for you to use and check out. That's on the National Center's page. And yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to show you. I also wanted to show you the Paths to Literacies page. So remember, I showed you last week that you can browse by topics and also by secondary topics. And that's where I showed you the experience books last week or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was. Now, what I wanted to focus on was if you go under main topics, there's this emergent literacy section, which again, just fantastic. Any of these, I talked about storybooks and story bags. Any of these you click on, it will take you to something about that can show you how to either make one or will give you a good example. Developing routines, tactile experience books, even tactile baby blankets for kids who are very young. So you can check out, and then lots of different posts that are developed by either families or teachers out in the field. So so this is really cool. So that's the other one I wanted to show you. And then this is and you need to set some time aside when you go and check this one out. I love this site and I share it with a lot of teams. And what's nice about this site is that they've developed it to, again, look at that whole range of skills. So from kids who are just building a foundation, which is what Lupita was doing, learning to take turns and listening to a song and asking for it to be repeated, to kids who have symbolic understanding and are moving on to like comprehension and vocabulary development and increasing their fluency in reading and writing. They have on this page, which can be helpful for families, this checklist, a literacy skills checklist. It's several pages long. It's very simple to use because it describes the behavior and you're just checking yes, no, sometimes, or I don't know. And as you go through it, it will let you know based on what most of your responses were, which section you should start at. But if this one, if you answered yes to most of these, that the child hasn't had many of these experiences, is fairly passive, doesn't really participate very much or shows a lot of interest, you're going to start with building a foundation. If you answered no to most of those, they're going to say, okay, well, go on and let's go to section 2 and let's find out a little bit more about this child. It lists some more specific behaviors that would be related to communication, understandings of routine, interest in books and literacy activities, and you go ahead and answer those. And it will tell you, if you answered no to a lot of these, it's saying, okay, the child still doesn't really have a lot of these skills, so we're going to go to early emergent. If it was don't know, we're going to start with early emergent and see where we go. But if it's yes, then go on, and we're going to go actually look at some other things. So this goes on for a few pages. We're not going to spend too much time going through all of it so what you do then, depending on where you land, so let's say you landed in early emergent literacy, you click on that and it has a description of some things. And then it's got this site is really great about this site is it has all of these links. So it has strategies that you'll want to use in terms of, using objects throughout the day, incorporating music, games, teaching some print and book awareness, maybe teaching them their name or name sign or personal identifier, like you saw with Mackenzie when she was looking at the frame with her picture and the fluff around it. And then down at the bottom, they've got examples for you. So they've got, again, links that you can go and click on. This is very much an Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole kind of thing. I do know that because you could start clicking and really good, but it's all really interesting, good stuff. Video clips, so you can go and see some examples of some of the things that they're talking about. So they have this for each one of the sections, this breakdown. The other nice thing that some teams really like is this the one that has that? Related skills. They actually talk about the types of skills that you would see in a child at this level, which I encourage teams to use when they're thinking about IEP goals. So these are ways, if you're looking for literacy IEP goals or academic goals, and you have a child who's an emerging communicator and might not be showing a lot of interest with typical curriculum, this might be where you start to look. So we're at 4:07, so I feel like I should come back and check in and see if there's questions. And if anybody has anything they want to share. And we have a few more minutes, so we can do that. I also have a short 2.5-minute video of an adapted book that some students that Maurice and I taught several years ago made. But first I want to just check and see.
Julie, I have my computer says it's 4:11.
Oh, it does? Oh, my phone says that too. Okay. Any questions or comments? About those sites?
Yeah, do you want the questions in the chat or do you want them?
Oh, yeah. You can just ask your question, Robin, and Brian is also gonna, while you're asking that, Brian's gonna pop up a couple of polls because we're curious to see if you guys would like us to continue with the mini trainings after the holidays.
My question is there a resource for getting videos showing specialists working with deaf-blind and like early start kids? Something that you can share with parents? Because I know you showed that one. Is there a place that you know where you can get more of those videos to actually give them an example?
Yeah, there's a lot of really great videos in the Open Hands, Open Access learning modules. Do you know about those?
No, I don't.
Okay, so they're intervener training modules. There are 27 of them, I think. There might be 28, 27. And they are on a lot of different topics on deaf blindness. They're also on the National Center's website. Maybe
Open Hands, what?
Open Hands, Open Access. Maybe Maurice will put that link in the chat. But so so it covers lots of topics. It has lots of age ranges, but there's tons of great videos in there that have to do with, that have younger kids. And if Robin, if you want more information, just contact any of us on our team and we could, we could suggest to you which, depending on what you're looking at, we could tell you which module to take a look at. Yeah. But good question. I think it does help a lot to show families examples. Any others?
Julie, this is Maurice. Would you very briefly explain how the video of Lupita connects to literacy? I mean, what Lupita does in the video, how that's related to literacy?
Yeah. It has, so with early literacy, and you'll see this if you think about, like, if you would think about a typical daycare or preschool, you'll see children engaging in a lot of turn taking and kind of song response, like that choral kind of response. So, the teacher says something and kids respond back. And that is all, because literacy isn't just reading and writing. It also has to do with speaking and listening skills. So, so that's what you see incorporated, I think, in that section. So she's being engaged in an activity where for the activity to continue, she needs to ask for it to continue. So it's her turn to do something. So because Lupita isn't going to be able to sing the song back or give the choral response, what's being asked of her is just to indicate, and she did with her body, that she wants it to continue. So I think it's because there's that language component that's involved in it is what makes it literacy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks for taking the poll, everybody. It's nice to hear that people that people want to come back for more, and that we've identified a time that works well. I will I'll make sure on the resource list that we'll post on our website that there will be a link to the short video that Yasmir Navis and Charlie O'Malley, two students from San Francisco State, developed. We asked these students to make an adapted book for a child who's deafblind, and this was done for maybe kids that were in a first through third grade class. So it's got music involved. It's got repeated storylines. They've added some Braille. They've identified core vocabulary words, things like that. It's very nice. And it wasn't too difficult to do. So I will post that as well because we didn't have a chance to see it. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Kimberly. The timing would have to do if we go back to in-person learning. Any other comments or questions? I know I put a lot out there to think about. I am happy to talk about this with anybody that wants to, or if you have, if you're working with a family where you want to come up with more ideas, I'd love to brainstorm with you. So just feel free to contact me. You can, I'll put my email in the chat box, but you can also find it on our contact page. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Next week is our final session, and it will before the holidays, and it's Myrna Medina, and I believe it's on promoting social connections, I think. Is that right, Myrna?
Yes, it is right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I don't know if you have any little teaser that you want to tell them about.
No, it's going to be a surprise.
Okay, so make sure you don't miss it.
Like you said, it's a finale.
Big finale.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and it looks like people, yeah, okay. So looks like we're good for after the holidays. Okay, so thanks everybody. I think we'll end this now. And thank you very much, Connie, for your captioning.